Hello and welcome to a review for The Dragon Hoard by Tanith Lee. I have got this rather beautiful little edition. It is from 1989. This book, however, was first copyrighted in 1971 when Tanith Lee was 23, 24, thereabouts. And this is apparently her first novel. Not her first published story, she had a few of those, but her first novel. It is a beaver. Someone at Arrow Publishing thought it would be a great idea to have a children's theme in the same way that Penguin has the puffins. They'd have the beavers. It's not aged well, Arrow. Not aged well. Anyhow, getting my mind out of the gutter. This little book with 168 pages was illustrated throughout by Graham Oakley. And the black and white illustrations are, frankly, delightful and quirky and funny, and all of them exceptionally relevant to the story. This is a picture of the kingdom of King Minas. They're trying to have a procession. The goats and sheep are blocking them, and there's the palace up on the hill. Great stuff. The illustrations throughout are beautiful and quirky. Who did this gorgeous little wraparound cover? Well, I can't help wondering whether it wasn't actually done by the same artist, by this same Graham Oakley, because I think I can see elements to the outline drawing that are similar, and in honest fact, there's no credits for it anywhere that I can find. There aren't anywhere in the book, there aren't on SFDB. Generally, we don't know who did this cover, so if you know, if you recognize this cover and you know who did it, I would like to know in the descriptions below. I even tried to do an image search, but all it would give me is options for booksellers who would like to sell me this edition. And that's a no-go. So, when the back of a book typically says a hilarious fantasy, I might back away. I'm not that keen on comedy in my fantasy and science fiction. But when someone says a hilarious fantasy from best-selling author Tanith Lee, I could only respond with complete and utter disbelief. I love Tanith Lee's work. I've been reading it for years. I've been rereading it for years. I have been rereading it for years. But never in the most remote part of my mind could I imagine that the woman who brought us Knight's Master and the Birth Grove could write hilarious fantasy, and I was entirely wrong. This is a children's story. It is unapologetically a children's story. It's got some fantasy and some fairy tale thrown in there, but this is essentially the fairy story written by someone who liked reading children's stories and fairy stories and myths, but was the person who always said, but what if? Or why don't they do this? And then they come up with this story. It's very reminiscent to the sort of story that intelligent, inquiring children will invent between themselves to grow out of the straightforward story of, say, Cinderella, for example. And within it, there's a whole heap of really well-known motifs, even tropes. So we start in the fairy tale kingdom, or children's story kingdom, of King Minas, where the palace is regularly invaded by sheep and goats who butt the pillars that are of white marble, and it's all very cute and quirky and nicely written. Now the palace is gearing up for the 17th birthday of Prince Jasith and Princess Goodness. They're about to celebrate their 17th birthday, and we see the two of them out. The princess is trying on her jewels, and her cat is telling her she has poor taste. The prince is out riding on his birthday present horse, and somewhere here there's a really, I'm going to read a little bit because it's so funny. Downstairs, Jasleth had just returned from galloping for miles on his new chestnut horse, and had ridden into the royal stables. "That was wonderful," said Jasleth. "Thank you." "Don't mention it," said the horse. "I knew your father would give me something nice for my birthday, and a light, considerate rider like you is just what I've always wanted." And that's the setting for it. That's the style of writing. All the animals talk back. Not all that often, but often enough to be enjoyable. Anyhow, just as the feasting hall is getting ready, all feast-worthy, in comes the evil enchantress Maligna. Maligna is either the aunt or the cousin or something similar of the king, and she is malignant. We saw her earlier in her castle. She was waiting for a delivery of an invitation to their birthday, and she was waiting with her pet wolves, who she has trained to chase after the postmaster. But no invitation arrived, just a bill from enchanted winged carriages, enchanted serpent-drawn carriages. How did that go? Ah, there we go. Chariots. Winged serpent chariot hire, which is how she arrived at the party, landed in the birthday cake, and proceeded to give a gift to Princess Goodness and one to Prince Jaslith, because she hadn't been invited to their christening either, and she hadn't turned up for that. She wasn't able to give them those presents at the time. So her present for the princess is that Goodness, like her name, will be so good that it's silly, and the present for Prince Jaslith is that for an hour of every day he will transform into a raven. He says, "Oh, that doesn't sound too bad." And she goes, "Ah, but you will never know when." So the prince, for the rest of this book, will randomly become a raven for 1 hour a day, and sometimes he works that to his favour, though he does fall through a few trees unexpectedly when he transforms back. Princess Goodness, as soon as this gift is laid on her, starts running around, handing out all her possessions and all the king's possessions to beggars. So it's very tongue-in-cheek. It's the sort of thing that will make a small child giggle, and the sort of thing that an adult, if they like that kind of thing, and I do, will find enchanting. So the king sends Prince Jaslith out into the world to seek his fortune, and off he goes a bit reluctantly. And he becomes part of the expedition, a quest on the part from another prince, which is to go and seek out the Dragon's Hoard of the title. The contents are fun. So you've got 4 parts, and each of them has chapter names, which are Part 1, The Birthday Presents, in which Princess Goodness becomes too good to be true, and in which Prince Fearless receives an enchanted sign. Part 2, in which Awful is told a long, long story. And it's got that older style of chapter naming, where the chapter name actually tells you what happens in the chapter, which is a bit cute in this scenario and a bit quirky. So Jaslith goes on this long, long sea voyage with Prince Fearless, who is far from fearless, and they're seeking the Dragon Hoard. So you've got this fun sea expedition as they visit various islands, and Maligna has found a way to watch them and give them bad advice to make their life harder. But it's a fun, innocent, quirky, beautiful little book. It didn't take me long to read. I read it mostly on the beach because it's perfect beach weather here, and thoroughly enjoying all the strange little adventures, some of which come out of fairy tales, some of which only came out of Tanith Lee's very special brain. Thoroughly enjoyed the Dragon Hoard. Would recommend it. Will work for kids. I never thought I'd say that about anything that Tanith Lee ever wrote, but yep, this one works for kids well. Older kids, the ones that have a sense of humour and have started to become just slightly cynical about your classic fairy stories. Thank you for watching. Have a great day and read good books.